Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm making a small guest appearance because we're going to do a wee Q&A with Jyoti now. And obviously it would be a bit strange if he was asking himself the questions about his own work because, well, you have been hearing and will continue hearing from many amazing innovators. Jyoti, um, as one of the session facilitators, is himself an amazing person doing amazing work and innovation. So, Jyoti, I know you've done some STEM-based projects. Could you tell us a bit about those?
Sure. So what I primarily focused on was flexible electronics. So at first in grade six, I started designing cheaper flexible electronic devices. So stuff that like most people could afford that would cost like $1 or $2 for maybe like a flexible display. And then moving into grade seven and eight, I kind of shifted my focus because I realized that a bigger problem with flexible electronics was the substrate. So the substrate is basically the thing upon like which all the transistors are put upon. So with regards to the substrate, what I did was I designed a new flexible electronic substrate from scratch. So it was made out of a like locally available plastic called PEN and some monolayer graphene that I was able to actually harvest at home. So I made a prototype and I actually took this to my regional science fair and then on to Canada-wide science fair.
Amazing, congratulations. And it's not really something that like I know a whole lot about. But what was it that got you started in that specific topic particularly? Because it's maybe one that's not something that you get taught about in school or anything like that as much.
Yeah, so actually in grade five, my family went to India and we were staying at a city called Kanpur, and there was one talk there by a renowned Indian flexible electronics expert on actually the problems with flexible electronics, solutions of them, and kind of the vision for the future. That really kickstarted my entire interest in it. It was a really interesting talk. I learned so much about them, and I really got like interested, and I was really curious about how can we make flexible electronics more accessible for everyone? How can we start giving everyone flexible displays? I came back from India to Canada in grade six. I actually started working on those projects for my science fairs and for my school projects because it's something that I really became passionate about.
So for anybody not as familiar with some of those like applications of flexible electronics, what difference can they make in the world?
Yeah, so the main thing is they're a lot cheaper. So they're made out of plastics, they're made out of really cheap materials. So the thing is, we can increase global access to technology. We can start giving everyone electronic devices. And another thing I really found really super interesting was biotechnology. So we can start having like flexible sensors elderly that monitor their vitals and alert emergency services. We can have like built-in trackers that like detect abnormal heart rate pulses. These are all like new innovations that are all possible by using the platform of flexible electronics.
Super. It seems like there's quite like a wide ranging like kind of set of uses that those have. What do you kind of see your future work with your project looking like? Do you have plans to continue your project, to make it bigger, to do something else?
Yeah, I actually want to continue this project, but more specifically, what I want to do is right now I'm trying to work on like a material science code where it's kind of determines the most ideal setup for a flexible device when you give it a certain output. So basically, this is all about increasing efficiency and its effectiveness. So like on top of the benefits I already talked about, we can get even better performance and we can probably get even lower cost.
Sounds like you've got plenty to keep you busy then with those projects. And making change in any way is not always easy, and innovation is no different to that. And maybe actually, there's more times when you fail because that you are doing a lot of kind of testing of new ideas and things like that. what are some of the challenges that you kind of had along your journey as an innovator?
Well, the main challenge is most of my stuff didn't work. And I think that's the like issue with really anyone who's in the innovation space, because you can't like suddenly get one idea and then it like you make it the first time, it suddenly works, and now you're making products. As like in most cases, when you first make it, there's usually a lot of quirks. Sometimes it doesn't even work at all. So the real thing is you have to be motivated enough to keep trying and keep going and like continuing on with your project. So when I designed my substrate, my first 5 attempts all failed. And then I got like some success on my sixth attempt, but then it was only on my seventh attempt that I finally got it.
And that's such an important message, I think, for everybody who's joining us in the audience, that it won't always go right. And actually, more often than not, it probably will fail at least a good few times before you manage to get the thing that works, whatever way it is that you're making change, whatever your project is. And we don't talk about that enough, the fact that, to get to that kind of end result of whether it is being at your national science fair or it is making the change that you want to see. We don't talk about the journey of failure to get there enough. So, kind of thinking about the journey to get there, what's a lesson that you've learned along the way?
Well, I actually learned a lot of lessons, but if I had to pick the biggest lesson I've learned along the way is that nothing comes to you on its own. You have to actually work for it. So I can't say I'm going to start this project and I expect to have good results and I expect to win like huge competitions. You have to actually like put a lot of effort and work into it. And I think that's really kind of a misconception that a lot of us have with innovations. It's that if we start an innovation, I guess all of the stuff will, in a sense, come to us. But that's like that's the real problem with innovations. You have to work for them. You have to try really hard, and then there's like that very small percentage that you actually succeed. And with those successes, you get to actually do really big things.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of, I guess, following on from that, then, with all of that work comes a lot of time. How do you balance the things that you're doing with your innovations with your schoolwork and any other commitments that you have?
Oh yeah, so what I normally do is I do all my schoolwork during the weekdays, and then I do all my innovations during the weekends because I have the most time then. And then I guess another really big thing is during summer break I have like no school, so I can just exclusively work on whatever I'm doing. But I guess during the school year it is kind of tough to balance. But if you can manage your time well, it will work out good, and you can probably do well in both your school and your own projects.
I think that that sounds like some solid advice for anybody that is considering kind of starting a project, to kind of plan your time and whatever works for you, whether it is, as you said, doing it during the weekends and the holidays, or if it is a different way, find the way that it can kind of work sustainably in your life without it becoming your whole life, but also without you ending up like kind of it kind of fading off. So I think that that really is one of the key things that a lot of young people find difficult, is trying to figure out how they fit everything in, because with the scale of the challenges, you kind of can feel a need to want to have to put a lot of time into it, and especially if you enjoy it. We've talked a lot this
Yeah.
weekend about actually enjoying what you do. So what is it that makes you enjoy the projects that you do so much?
Well, the first thing is I just find it really fun to actually try and innovate something. So, I mean, I guess the research part isn't too fun, but when you're actually building the projects, when you're like working hands on, when you're going out and buying materials and doing all this like experimental work, it's actually quite entertaining. It's quite rewarding in that you like not only learn important life skills, but you also like do something that you become really proud of in the end.
Yeah, that practical hands-on part is like one of like those key parts of the innovation that a lot of people enjoy, I think. So to kind of wrap up, it's been like so good speaking to you. I think that we probably could ask you like so much more. But what would be your kind of parting bit of advice for young people who want to do a similar project to you?
It's all just about motivation and finding something you're passionate about. It's also like two biggest parts of any innovation project. Just find something you really like, and then if you work on it, then you'll just find it really rewarding. And then always be motivated, because remember that you're not going to find success on your first try. You're going to have to try like 3, 4, 5 times or even more. And it's that motivation that really results in success.
I think that that's some solid parting advice for everybody, and it's so great that we could speak a bit more about your project. You know, having only really spoke so more so about the facilitation side of things. So, thanks so much, Jyoti, and I will leave you to continue along with the rest of your facilitation. But everybody, please share your appreciation for Jyoti, both for his Q&A and his amazing facilitation of this session in the chat. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Thank you.